Hi, Jason and Kim here, and welcome to video number 4 in our series of getting focused for running and fitness. Today we're going to discuss how you can use this time to lay down some good solid foundations for both mental and physical performance and health going forwards. We're going to discuss resources that are available to you in the form of a podcast and a book, and how these can sort of tie in with that subject going forwards as well. At the end, we're also going to mention a couple of things that Kim and I are both quite excited about, and we'll let you know dates of those as well, so stay tuned for that. So first of all, Kim, you're going to talk about a podcast?
Yeah, so this is a podcast I listened to a while ago now, maybe a year or more ago, and it really sort of spoke to me then. So I was thinking about it recently because of everything that's happening. So I re-listened to it the other day. I'm just going to attempt to show it to you there. If you can't see that, it's a Rich Roll podcast. So this guy, some of you might be familiar with him. He's a recovering alcoholic who changed his life, turned his life around. I think when he was in his 30s or 40s. He was a really high-flying swimmer in college, really successful law career, but he became an alcoholic off the back of that sort of stress and intense career, I think. Turned his life around by going to rehab, and eventually became this amazing sort of ultra endurance athlete. So he's done something called the Epic 5 Ironmans in 5 days on 5 different Hawaiian islands, and that's kind of what he's famous for. And now he does these brilliant podcasts, so he has really in-depth conversations with some amazing people, athletes, people nothing to do with sport. This guy that I'm going to talk about today is a little bit to do with sport, but it can be applied to so many other areas of life as well. And the reason I like his podcasts, they're long, but he's a really good listener and conversationalist, so he doesn't just ask questions and kind of go with some pre-written stuff that he's already prepared. He really gets involved in the conversation. He listens to what the people are saying and he responds to that as well. So it's always a really interesting listen. This one that I showed you there was episode, I've forgotten now, 401. Yeah, episode 401. And the guy that he interviews is called James Clear.
We'll put the link up for this in the notes for the video.
There you go. This episode was called Why Habits Are the Compound Interest of Self-Improvement. So I was quite interested in habits and how they formed, read a couple of books on habits, and I thought it sounded like a good listen, and it really was. The guy that he interviews is a sort of habit expert, really. He's written a lot of books on it. He's had a lot of success in talking to sports teams, businesses. I think he's done TED Talks, things like that. So he knows his stuff. He's done it for a long time. So I re-listened to it the other day while I was out on my run, and just made a few notes about why this is a really good listen, particularly now. So he talks about how habits are formed because they're attached to our belief about ourselves and our identity. So if you've got a habit of putting your trainers on every day and going for a run, it's because probably you see yourself as a runner. If you get up and go and do your job every day, you see yourself as that job. So maybe you're a teacher or an office worker or something like that. That's who you are, and that's what you believe about yourself. So these habits that we've got that currently some of us aren't able to do to the extent that we normally do, that can create a real sense of loss and uncertainty, because it's like it's taken away your belief about who you are, about your identity. So it can be quite a scary thing, and that's why I think a lot of people are getting quite freaked out about this. I know I have a little bit as well, so that's why habits are really important in a time like this. So on this podcast he talks about that. He talks about how to make good habits stick and how to get rid of bad habits. They veer away from the words good and bad a little bit, and they talk about that as well. So it's really, there are actionable things that you can do in there as well. It's not just philosophising about it, it's actually things that you can put into practice. One of those things that I took away from my second listen was to focus on the first 2 minutes of a habit. So if you are a runner or you are someone that goes to the gym, focus on the first 2 minutes of that process, and that makes it a lot easier to stick to. The first 2 minutes of going out for a run, I guess, are getting dressed, probably putting your running gear on. So rather than going, right, I'm going to go and run 10k, go, right, I'm going to put my running gear on, and then you'll just kind of start to do it, won't you? You're not going to just put your running gear on and hang out on the sofa, maybe. I don't know. You're less likely,
a little bit.
You're less likely to do that if you've got your running gear on. So now that our outcomes have been taken away, like I'm going to go and run a 10k race next week, or I've got a marathon in a month, those things have been cancelled. So rather than thinking about the outcome and the loss of that outcome, think about the kind of person that you want to be in this time. So instead of going, I'm a marathon runner, or I'm someone that runs 10Ks, or I'm someone that runs 100 miles, are you a runner? Because if you're a runner, you can still run. Okay? So take away the outcome, take away that goal, and inherently, if you want to do those things, you are a runner. So you can still do that. So that's a habit that you can still occupy. The last thing that he talked, well, not the last thing that he talked about, but the last thing that I picked up on in my second listen was he really likes goals and he thinks goals are great, as do we, but it's not the be all and end all. And again, it's part of the outcome, isn't it? The goal that you choose. So you should absolutely choose a goal, and then you should park it, especially now. So focus on the process, not the goal, not the outcome, because it's those little steps of process that are going to get you to that outcome ultimately in the end anyway, and it's almost like a bonus. So even when it's less than ideal, something like now, our goals, our outcomes have kind of been taken away, or they've been moved back quite a lot. You still have that in the background, but if you focus on the smaller steps of getting there, ultimately that's going to be much better for your head. It's going to be much better for you physically, because you're going to still be fit and healthy, and you're not going to drive yourself crazy. So yeah, listen to it. That's a very, very little version of about a 2-hour conversation, and it's gold. A lot of it is really, really useful for now.
Yeah, it's good. And I think that's something that is really important at the moment, is trying to get into a good routine. I've luckily for me been working from home for 3 or 4 years now, and I found it really hard. I still do find it hard. I'm not as disciplined as Kim, but I do find that just having a good routine makes such a difference. And it doesn't have to be rigid, at this time of the day do this, at this time of day do that, but just the general flow of the day. I have a good routine for that now, so I know when I can get the most out of myself doing certain things. So it's about finding that routine for you as well, and obviously that's sometimes dictated by other things as well that are happening. But yeah, just a good routine and a bit of discipline as well. When I used to go and work offshore, or I was in the army and we used to go away on tour and stuff like that, and it wasn't, you were on a ship for a long while and couldn't do very much at all, but routine was really key. The days we had the odd day off, and they were horrendous because we were just bored. So yeah, having a good routine and structure makes a big difference. The other thing the book that we wanted to talk about was called The World's Fittest Book, by a guy called Ross Edgley, and he is probably very well known now by being the first and probably only ever person that swam all the way around the UK. Over 6 months he did this, and he did that after he wrote this book. Kim and I went to see him in Leeds as well, and he was absolutely fantastic. Very, very knowledgeable, very interesting person. But what I like about this book is it's about general fitness and general conditioning. It says how to train for anything and everything, anywhere and everywhere. So it's about doing what you can do with what you've got as well. rather than, you need to go to a gym to do certain types of training. There's a lot of body weight type training in there. He spent time with different peoples of different disciplines, of different sports. He's trained with the Royal Marines, he's trained with Andy Bolton, who was the first guy to lift 1,000-pound deadlift. He's spent time with Ecuadorian cowboys.
He runs as well.
He runs as well.
He likes fell running.
Fell running and barefoot running. So he's a very all-round, amazing athlete, and that's what comes across in the book. And it's about, at the moment, using the time that we've got now to work on a general conditioning and a general health, so that when we do come to doing more specific things, we're in a better position with a good foundation underneath us to do that specific type of training. So that is a fantastic book. There's also some really good recipes in there. One of the flapjack recipe in there is one that I've used quite a few times. So that's really, really useful. Really, brilliant book. A lot of people we know have already read it as well. But yeah, that's a great book. So I think, what we're trying to help with and sort of point you towards at the moment is thinking about, okay, what could my routine start to be like, that's going to help me towards being in a good place when we start to sort of open our wings a bit more and be able to sort of get out and about a bit more. So it's a good time for sort of having a look internally and getting focused
and doing some learning, even if you already know some of this stuff. It's one thing to know it, isn't it? It's another thing to action it. So doing some things like listening to podcasts again while you're out for a run or while you're cooking or something like that, it really gets you thinking about what you can actually do yourself, rather than just, I know all this already. Do you actually do it? Because a lot of us don't, really, if we're honest with ourselves. So just get yourself thinking about some different things rather than just focusing on what you can't do.
And even at the moment, there's so many different things that we could probably do as well. And maybe we need to sort of narrow that window a little bit and maybe not focus on 20 million different things, and maybe just try and focus on a sort of narrower window of subjects. Otherwise we kind of spread ourselves very thin. So it'd be interesting to know what people are up to. If if you've already got a good routine, let us know what it is. If you've got any tips as well, then that'd be really good to feed that back and add that into the comments. Or any other podcasts or books that you might recommend. It'd be great, to hear about some of those. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. We're going to try and do this every Sunday, so recommending a read or a listen or both. Not to overwhelm you again, but so you've got a nice little list of things that you
We're trying to keep it to 10 minutes. So we've gone a bit over, but rather than it being a 40-minute sort of long stint, 10 minutes, and then hopefully you get what you need out of it. So the other thing that we were going to mention was a couple of podcasts and books that we're excited about. So the first podcast, there's another really good podcast, almost as good as Rich World, but it's been brought out by Chia and it's called Run to the Hills.
Yeah.
That's right, it's called Run to the Hills. Chris Bland and Tim are hosting that, and they're really nice to chat to anyway, and that just comes across in the podcasts that they're doing. The first one was with John Steele, and so that was a really nice interview. Again, they're nice 20-minute long podcasts as well, so you can sort of squeeze them in somewhere. So that's a good one to listen to. And what was the book?
The book is Ross Edgley's new book. It was supposed to be out at the end of this month, but he's had to push it back to the end of May, but it's called The Art of Resilience. So this is what we went to see him on when he was speaking about this book, where we saw him on tour talking about it. I think it's going to be really interesting again, and it's something that factors into what's happening now, but also training for longer races. So being resilient and learning how to build that mindset is going to be something really useful. And we can't get the book obviously just yet, but it's going to be coming out at the end of May. But if you follow Ross on Instagram, it gives you sort of snippets and hints and tips.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Okay, so thanks for sticking with us and thanks for tuning in. We've had a really good first week doing these.
Yeah.
We've tried to keep them varied. Looking forward to next week as well. So please join us Monday for our next exercise of the week. We're not going to tell you what it is yet. We do know, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do know. We'll let you wait till Monday. Okay, thanks everyone.